Hello everyone, it is my absolute pleasure to be here today presenting on academic misconduct, in this case plagiarism. So by now you should know that there are different kinds of academic misconduct types, but today I'm just going to introduce plagiarism. So what is plagiarism? Plagiarism has been defined in different ways. I'm not here today to provide a definition, but to use those definitions to make a case. So technically, when you are lifting content that has been written, published, edited in others by other sources, then typically that constitutes plagiarism. But again, there are deeper, more academic, more philosophical ways to describe or to conceptualize plagiarism. In essence, what you see on the screen are definitions of different universities where I have worked before. Liverpool John Moores being one of them, Curtin University, which has an extensive list of definitions. Furthermore, where I work currently, RMIT University Vietnam, and possibly there will be other definitions where I will be working next, perhaps in other countries or other universities. Currently, where I work, there is a very short definition of plagiarism, and I'm going to talk about this one today because this is the most common type of plagiarism that I find in students' work, which is the lack of citation, unintentional or intentional. Either way, I will discuss this in the next slides. So typically, we have, as I said before, different definitions, and some authors, some researchers have gone the further or another step into defining plagiarism. And here you can see Percorari in 2019, he defined plagiarism in more philosophical, more academic ways. But essentially, this definition here, or these two definitions, pretty much match what the other slides have shown you before. In other words, citing work that is not your work, it belongs, these are ideas, notions, philosophies, etc., concepts that emerged in previous writings or indicated by other individuals, not necessarily published. And I'm going to talk about this as well because a lot of the times when I talk to other lecturers or academics, typically they will relate plagiarism to Turnitin's similarity percentages. And that is actually quite inaccurate. Here is an example. We have 52% similarity in an assessment, but a lot of that similarity originates in the actual, at the bottom of the assessment, meaning in the reference section. So as I was mentioning before, a lot of the times similarity is perceived just by similarity, period, meaning all the similarity that a document shows or indicates. And this is false, this is actually wrong, because a lot of the times students will provide a lot of references, and if you have 5 references, obviously the similarity percentage will be different from cases where students present 70 or 100 references. So many lecturers, I have spoken to actually many lecturers who actually tend to go by the similarity in the references. And again, this is wrong, this is not accurate. The similarity should be within the text. Number 2, which is even more obvious, is that a lot of the times, quite often, this similarity in the text doesn't exist. And one of the reasons is because the assessment or the assignment has been written for the first time. So, and many lecturers tend to ignore that fact. So obviously, if no student or no author has published that content before, or published meaning if there is not origin in the sense that it has been submitted as a work, be it a student or as a piece of work, academic work, in the case of academics or scholars or authors, researchers, then that similarity will never be picked up by Turnitin. So, in other words, in this case here, for instance, you see 16%, the whole assessment's overall percentage was 16, as opposed to 50 or plus percent that was written previously. We need to stop. This is not working. You told me that, oh, okay. Just stop for a second. I need to go back to this one. Sorry, okay. Thank you for your patience. As I was saying, on many occasions, the story that the similarity is trying to tell you is wrong, meaning 52% in this case originates predominantly from the references. In this particular case, the whole assessment has 16% similarity. But if the assessment has not been written previously, there is no way that Turnitin will pick up such similarity. In addition, if the assessment was written but the authors have significantly changed the wording, then Turnitin will not pick up that either. So in this particular case, I omitted the names of the country and that of the organization. This student, for example, is providing what I learned in previous years is referred to as common knowledge versus not common knowledge. So not common knowledge is all that information that is provided that has numbers, percentages, information that the average Joe, the average citizen will not know. In this particular case, the student provided a lot of company-related information, which is impossible for the average person, the average citizen or resident to know. Therefore, this is not common knowledge. More precisely, common knowledge could be referred to as, for example, the days of the week. The average person will know that 1 week has 7 days. 1 day has 24 hours. There is a day and night in each day, unless, of course, you live in the winter of in a Scandinavian country where perhaps they don't have night time during the summer or daytime some days during the winter. But in essence, common knowledge versus non-common knowledge is easy to identify. Therefore, I would like to provide several rules of thumb, meaning various pillars, various indications, various suggestions or recommendations that students should think of when they are preparing assessments. Fundamentally, any information that is not considered common knowledge, numbers, percentages, then, for example, how many people live in the US today in 2023? I mean, we know that the United States is large, probably larger than 200 million, but in essence, not 328 or 318 as the World Bank or other sources may indicate. How many ministries are there in Switzerland versus in Spain? And many zillions of other pieces of information that are out there, and students around the world need to sometimes provide in an assessment. So for instance, I teach international business, and a lot of the content that we teach in international business is about global trade operations, entering a new market, finding out about that specific market. For example, if I want to sell socks in South Korea and I'm in Brazil, obviously if I'm in Brazil, I need to know how big the market is, how many people live in South Korea, how much does South Korea imports in garments, in socks, or in other products, how much the purchasing power or how strong the purchasing power in South Korea is. all pieces of information that are not considered common knowledge. So as you can see in the example on the slide, days have 24 hours. The average Joe, the average Mary will know that information, but not that Winston Churchill's date of birth was actually in the 19th century. That is not, or that Wyoming was also established in the 19th century, precisely on July 10th, 1890. All that content has been read, has been copied from a source out there that the lecturer might not know. The student will know because he or she found that information in other sources, and therefore that particular content must be cited. So rules of thumb: when you are in the classroom, you ask the lecturer if you don't know exactly what plagiarism might be considered, what sort of content you should avoid or you should provide in each assessment. And this brings me to the principle of attending classes. If the student doesn't attend classes, if the student is not, does not take the initiative in listening and talking to the lecturer, then the student quite often, in my experience, will not know that he or she is committing plagiarism or other forms of academic misconduct. Quite often the students tell me when they are caught, again, because they have unintentionally or intentionally plagiarized, they will refer to their friends, their colleagues, their peers. My friend told me, my colleague told me. Well, your colleagues might not have any idea of what plagiarism is, especially if they haven't attended classes. And if they are attending classes, they are at the same level as you are. So they are not experts. Therefore, the first port of call is your lecturer. Always ask questions to the lecturer. Another rule of thumb is starting early. You must manage your time, start early on, because if you do so, you have more time to ask questions, critical questions. Many students, even this week, I was talking to some groups, and some of the students, when I asked them, how come you don't have references here? They were showing me a rough draft of their assessment. They said, oh, we will do this later. So I said, this is very sloppy and unprofessional work. You must keep track of your references, of your citations, and do them as you go, not leaving them for later on when you're finishing your assessment.